In this day and age where education is everything, can you believe there's a fool who joined the company with just a high school diploma?
Sarah was definitely talking about me. We were at a wedding party, and it was time for the bride's speech. Yet, all bride Sarah did was talk trash about me.
That high school grad thinks he's the bee's knees because he's young and gets coddled, but he can't do his job. Annoying, right? Just a high school grad.
Though she didn't mention any names, it was obvious she was talking about me. In our workplace, I'm the only one whose highest education is high school. My colleagues looked at me with concerned expressions. Sarah continued to bash me with apparent delight. The atmosphere in the hall was indescribably awkward. I turned to look at Hank, the groom and my department head, concerned about his reaction. Given his usual disdain for me, he had to be enjoying this. However, Hank's expression was nothing like I had expected. Then, unable to bear it any longer, someone stood up. With a face full of anger, they approached the newlyweds. The tension was palpable, as if this were no ordinary wedding. The person who approached them was, "My name is Tom. I'm an office worker at a certain company. I'm 24 years old, but I've been in the workforce for a while. The reason is that I only finished high school. Due to what you might call family circumstances, I couldn't go on to college. When I jumped into the workforce at 18, I was prepared to face some prejudice, but the company I joined was filled with good people, and nobody changed their attitude towards me just because I was a high school grad. I know that delivering results at work is more important than educational background, so I just have to work hard. I couldn't let them say, 'That's why you don't hire high school grads.' My hard work has paid off, and both my job performance and relationships at work are good. I wish I could say I'm enjoying every day, but there was just one person who didn't think well of me. It was Hank, the department head. In recent months, his behavior towards me had clearly been off. He would get angry at me for absurdly unfair reasons compared to other employees. Hank routinely scolded me over trivial matters, and he deliberately did it in front of other employees. While I was working, he'd call out my name loudly, interrupting me.
"Hey, come here."
Thinking something was up, I couldn't just ignore him and approached Hank.
"Hey, Tom, get motivated and do your job. Don't slack off just because you're a high school grad."
Despite my hard efforts, this is what I was told. Hank banged his desk loudly, making a big noise. It seemed his goal was to intimidate me. I'm not slacking off, and I always try my hardest. I couldn't agree with him, so I argued back. I'm doing my best and getting results. What's the problem?
Figure it out yourself. That's why you're just a high school grad.
No matter how much I ask what the issue is, I never get a specific answer. Even if they say I lack motivation, all I can do is try my best. I'll show them. With that resolve, I continued to work. But no matter how hard I tried and the results I achieved, Hank's attitude remained unchanged. In fact, the more I did, the harsher he became toward me. The harassment from Hank didn't stop at scolding. I began not receiving necessary documents for work and was burdened with menial tasks.
"You're starting an hour early tomorrow to clean our office."
Do I really need to do that?
Menial tasks are meant for the less educated. Right, everyone agrees, don't you?
Hank's gleeful voice echoed through the department, but no one responded. It was a small relief that no one joined in on the harassment. As I faced this bullying, my colleagues continued their work uncomfortably. Some might think it heartless, but I didn't care. Defending me could make them targets for harassment too, so their hesitation was understandable. Yet, they didn't ignore me and tried their best to support me. Despite the hardships from Hank's bullying, Thanks to my supportive colleagues, I managed to keep going. Thinking of my supportive colleagues and just picturing Hank makes me feel down. Caught between these two, my emotions fluctuated like a roller coaster. I believed that one day my patience and effort would be rewarded. There was no basis for it, but I clung to that belief and managed to keep going. It was a typical sunny day.
Hey, everyone. I have an announcement. Come over.
Hank gathered the people in the department, forced to interrupt our work. My colleagues and I were visibly annoyed, wondering what it was all about. Hank said with a sly grin,
I'm actually getting married soon. I'm 46 years old this year, and it's finally time for me to become the head of a household.
The sudden announcement left everyone unsure how to react, and the department fell silent.
Hey, it's a joyous announcement from Hank, who you all owe so much to. Let's give him a round of applause.
Despite thinking it's odd to prompt your own applause, we were forced to clap. Regardless of personal feelings, getting married is certainly a cause for celebration.
Of course, I'm having a wedding, and you all must attend.
Hank said, pulling out invitations for everyone in the department from his desk drawer and distributing them without allowing any objections.
There's no right to refuse. Think of it as losing your place here if you don't show up.
We hadn't even been told the date yet, and it was also unreasonable. After handing out the invitations, Hank started talking about how he met his soon-to-be wife, Sarah.
She's Sarah. She works as a receptionist at a client's company, and we met at a social drinking event.
He said, pulling out his smartphone to show us a picture.
Look, isn't she cute? Say she's cute.
He forced each of us to compliment the photo, and Hank looked pleased with himself. Everyone in the department was surely thinking about getting back to work. I was surprised to be invited to the wedding. I had thought I would be the only one left out. However, on the day of the wedding, the reason I was invited became clear. The groom, Hank, had no friends. Despite many classmates and personal friends of Sarah attending, there were none for Hank. To balance it out, everyone from the department was invited. It was essentially just to fill seats. We were merely props in the facade of a beloved boss, Hank. Well, refusing would have only worsened the harassment, so just bear with it. I told myself, waiting for the wedding to end. Despite the personal feelings of myself and my colleagues, the wedding proceeded in a warm atmosphere with a happy vibe. Hopefully, this will calm Hank down a bit, but who knows? It was time for the bride and groom's speeches, and Sarah stood up. I initially thought it would be a typical wedding speech, but something seemed off.
Here, I want to tell everyone about a certain employee at Hank's workplace.
The crowd murmured for a moment, but Sarah didn't seem to care.
In this day and age where education is everything, can you believe there's a fool who joined the company with just a high school diploma?
I couldn't believe my ears. She was definitely talking about me. Among our colleagues, I'm the only one who is just a high school grad. My coworkers looked at me with concern. I'm meeting Sarah for the first time today. What is she thinking?
That high school grad thinks he's the bee's knees because he's young and gets coddled, but he can't do his job. Annoying, right? Just a high school grad.
Sarah said this with a laugh, clearly enjoying herself. An awkward silence filled the room, but she seemed utterly unconcerned.
Despite being such a nuisance to Hank, his manager, he acts so nonchalant. It's truly a bother.
Sarah continued, looking directly at me. It's hard to say such things to someone you're meeting for the first time, but her nastiness rivals even Hank's.
He's nothing but dead weight to the company, yet I can't understand why they keep him around. I wish they'd get rid of him right now. Don't you all agree?
The room was filled with an indescribable silence. I almost doubted this was really a wedding speech. Come to think of it, I wondered how Hank was taking this, so I looked over. His face was ashen, and he stood frozen with his mouth agape. Apparently, he had no idea Sarah would say such things. After being stunned for a while, he seemed to realize he needed to stop Sarah from slandering me further. He suddenly stood up and rushed towards Sarah.
Hey Sarah, why are you saying such unnecessary things?
What got you so flustered? You always talk about this, don't you?
Well, that may be true, but
The contrast between the flustered Hank and the calm Sarah was almost comical. A heated exchange began between the newlyweds, and the room buzzed with commotion.
You always said how tough it was cleaning up his messes late into the night.
well, that's…
I felt uneasy hearing Sarah's statements. That's because none of it was true. Apparently, unable to hold back any longer, my colleagues protested.
That's not true. In fact, it was Hank who looked down on Tom and dumped work on him.
At my colleague's statement, both Sarah and Hank froze like statues. For Sarah, it was an unexpected revelation, and for Hank, it was a truth he wished had not been disclosed. As the two of them stood there, a man approached. It was Bob, the company president.
What on earth are you doing?
Bob's shout filled the venue. The festive mood was completely wiped away, replaced by a palpable tension. Confronted by Bob, Hank could only stammer without a response. Hank continued to open and close his mouth a few times, seemingly at a loss for what to do. Ignoring Hank, Bob began to speak.
Tom is the man I'm considering for the next president. It seems he's been treated quite poorly.
At Bob's statement, my colleagues were surprised, and all eyes turned to me. Honestly, given my age, their surprise isn't unwarranted. Ignoring the silent Hank, Bob continued speaking.
It's only natural considering Tom's effort and achievements.
Bob turned to me and said gently, "No, but I'm still quite inexperienced."
You've achieved results that turns that on its head.
It seems I've been undervaluing myself because Hank never acknowledged me. I was glad to hear Bob's words. There was a part of me that couldn't quite admit it honestly. My colleagues nodded deeply in agreement with Bob's words. As I stood there taken aback, Bob smiled gently.
I had informed Hank that I was considering Tom as a candidate for president.
What? Really? Surprised, I looked at Hank. Hank remained silent, awkwardly turning his face away.
I had asked Hank to mentor you, but it appears he was rather harassing you instead.
Bob gave Hank a sharp glance. Honestly, I can't recall learning anything from Hank. If I had to say, he's taught me how not to be, serving as a bad example.
I was shocked by Sarah's speech earlier. Hank, how do you intend to take responsibility for this?
Bob, I'm terribly sorry.
Are you only apologizing to me?
No, Tom, I'm really sorry. I truly regret it.
Hank, as if remembering something, apologized to me.
Hank, do you know what kind of life Tom has led?
That's only that he graduated from high school.
Tom, since you have the chance, why don't you tell him?
Although I felt a bit embarrassed, it was a direct request from Bob. I decided to talk about my life so far. My father worked in a factory, and we were far from being wealthy. From a young age, growing up in such circumstances, I developed a desire to become rich. Although my dream of taking the college entrance exams did not come true, I continued my studies regardless. I spent my days borrowing and devouring various books on finance and work ethics from the library. During this time, Bob came to give a speech at my workplace. Every year, there was an event where we listened to success stories from entrepreneurs who had made it big. I was so impressed by Bob's speech that after it ended, I approached him directly to negotiate a job. I passionately pitched myself, asking him to hire me. I believe that Bob must have been perplexed to be told such a thing by a child who had not even graduated from high school yet. However, there seemed to be something about my unusual passion that resonated with him. Right there, Bob promised to hire me. Eager to live up to Bob's expectations, I worked tirelessly. As a result, Bob came to appreciate my efforts and seemingly considered me a potential future president of the company. To foster my learning in various aspects of the business, I was assigned to a regional department, and that's the situation. I explained my career journey, and my colleagues all seemed convinced. However, Hank was clearly displeased.
Bob, I come from a similar background. I've been working hard for this company ever since I graduated from college.
Indeed, you have been working hard.
Right. Then why is it only Tom who gets special treatment? I can't accept this.
Bob responded calmly, trying to soothe him.
Actually, there was a time when I also considered you as a potential president.
What does that mean? It's different now.
Bob nodded silently.
Since you became a manager, there have been excessive issues.
That's...
Your passion for the job has diminished, and your work attitude has worsened.
Maybe I've changed a bit.
Seeing you like this, it was natural to remove you from the candidate list.
Hank fell silent, at a loss for words.
I've received reports from your subordinates. You've been flaunting your position and looking down on them.
That was just a bit of bragging.
True to Bob's words, Hank's I am important attitude was a daily occurrence. Honestly, I think he spends more time boasting than working. Bob's decision to remove Hank from the potential future presidents was undoubtedly the right call.
Hank, I'm disappointed in you.
Bob said, his words hitting like a final blow, leaving Hank devastated. What was supposed to be a joyful wedding turned into a somber affair, ending under a heavy cloud. Days after Hank's tumultuous wedding, Hank lost Bob's trust and completely alienated the trust of his colleagues as well. This incident triggered accusations from colleagues, revealing a series of abuses Hank had committed against his subordinates. Eventually, he was fired and left the company in tears. As it turns out, the wedding, which turned into a battleground, was ultimately canceled partway through. This led to a major argument between Hank and Sarah, eventually resulting in a divorce.
I was deceived by Hank. He said he would eventually become the president, so I thought I'd never have to worry about money.
I still clearly remember her shouting at the venue. Feeling humiliated at her own wedding, Sarah sued Hank. She demanded a huge settlement for emotional distress, in addition to cancellation fees. Hank ended up paying not only the wedding cancellation fees, but also several $1000s in damages. His savings quickly depleted, and it seems he even had to resort to taking out loans. Apparently, there was a reason Sarah ridiculed me in her speech. A few days before the wedding, there had been an exchange between Hank and Sarah.
Remember that idiot with a high school diploma I always talk about?
What about him?
I've invited him to the wedding, thinking about making a fool of him right there.
That sounds fun. I want to join in.
Go ahead. The place will erupt in laughter.
At this time, Hank was apparently quite drunk. Though he meant it as a joke, Sarah took it seriously. From my perspective, Hank is clearly out of line, but Sarah actually going through with it is just as bizarre. Anyway, this led to the sequence of events that resulted in this outcome. A sued Hank ended up crying, apologizing, and clinging to Sarah.
Sarah, please, I've been fired and I'm out of money. Please, drop the lawsuit.
Don't joke with me. The penalty for deceiving me should be severe.
I'll get back on my feet. Just help me out.
Don't be ridiculous. Stay away from me forever.
Enraged, Sarah slapped Hank hard, sending him spinning through the air. Thus, their brief marriage ended abruptly. Now completely abandoned by Sarah, Hank found himself without a single person to turn to for help. Due to Sarah's connections, Hank's bad reputation spread across various companies. Unable to find re-employment, Hank became homeless. Unable to pay his apartment rent, he was evicted. Following the wedding debacle, his family disowned him, leaving him completely isolated. He tried to get by with odd jobs but couldn't stand being scolded by teenagers, quitting after just one day. Recently, a former colleague told me they had seen him living in a cardboard house in the local park. It seems Hank continues his miserable existence, begging for money. He's become emaciated and now competes with stray dogs for discarded food. His life has taken a drastic downturn, unimaginable for someone who was once considered a potential company president. It's a self-inflicted downfall for a man who became too arrogant and complacent in his position as the department head. Meanwhile, with Hank gone, I was promoted to the department head. Learning from Hank's example, I vowed never to repeat his mistakes. Together with my team, we've worked harder than ever before. As a result, our performance has dramatically improved, and my department has grown significantly. Bob frequently visits to inspect and always provides encouragement. As a candidate for the next company president, I strive to uphold a reputation that befits the role, working diligently every day,